live.
All right, welcome everybody to the July 24 Select Board meeting at 6:31. We'll go ahead and open as per usual with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dave Hemingway, Chair of the Select Board. And Marlo is unable to make it this evening as she is not in town. So that moves us on to announcements. Do we have any specific announcements you wanted to call out?
I do not.
I also don't have any.
Okay, so I will call out that we have still the road passage issues, and also note that on the website you can find the road work will be beginning on White Plains and Clothespin Bridge, and you should expect delays and seek alternate routes when you can. That will be starting on this coming Friday, July 28th.
And this coming Saturday, there'll be a ham and beans supper in Webster. And that benefits, I think, the Webster Church.
Perfect.
I just had a fast question. When you mentioned clothespin, is it the bridge or the pavement?
The road, the pavement portion.
All right, chip seal. All right, no chip seal.
All right. Any further announcements that you wanted to make, Chief, since you're here?
Fine, good.
All right. So that
Other than, please, anybody that has not paid their dog fines, please do. We still have, maybe 20 out of them all, so it's not too bad. But if they could just pay them online, it'll save you going to court and save you the fines. So,
Perfect.
much easier.
And since we now have our road agent here, I'll just go ahead and double check. We had posted the road closures and weather impacts. How is that looking for Roby Road at Battle Street being closed? Is it still closed, or is there any update to those situations?
No, Roby Road, when we're over there working, we close the road so we can get something done. But it's open one lane through the weekend, and until we get back over there, because that's why I wanted to come tonight to just give you an update and see what you had, so I didn't get out of line.
Perfect.
I guess FEMA's supposed to be coming to town this week.
I haven't heard when, but I know Rob was working
Correct.
on getting them the information.
Yeah.
I don't believe a declaration's been
Right.
declared.
But they were gonna make some other trips to some other damaged areas in the state or in Merrimack County, because it goes by counties,
Yeah, I'm
correct?
sure they're in Merrimack County, yeah.
So, I have been in contact with Rob, with the gentleman in the office, to keep up with all that FEMA stuff. We have changed the pipes that caused the problems. We did upgrade them to a bigger size. But a lot of the tar down through there got undermined. And we've ripped that off and pulled that and got it smoothed up so that we can get the fire apparatus and the emergency vehicles and the police through there. And but there's no, I mean, they built the road with what they had back in the day, but the tar sits right on loam. It's loam and rocks. It's kind of sad.
And how much of the road is that way?
Oh, the whole hill, I mean, there's gonna be 1,800 feet of it.
Wow.
That just buckled up with the water getting underneath it, because it had no good base of a material. And so I really don't wanna spend $100 and something thousand to put new tar down on what's there. And I know FEMA's gonna pay for, or I'm hoping that they're gonna pay for the damage that was done by the storm, but I know they're not gonna rebuild the road. I don't believe, I mean, I'd be amazed if they did. We on
Yep.
Okay,
everything's
no,
fine.
I just, so, I wanna put it back together right. This happened when Addie was a road agent in 2005. We lost that whole side. We cut the tar and placed it all back in, but it had never really been right. It never was right because there's no base under it. So,
Okay. Well, good to let everybody know. We'll come back to that then. We have appointments, but I don't see either of the people I would have, any of the people I would have expected for the appointments here. But we do have a different person here who I believe is also a somewhat of an appointment.
You're calling Phil different?
So, well, I don't think he's one of the ones
No,
that's
he's
listed,
not.
so.
I'm teasing him.
Would you like to skip over and hope that the other appointments
Sure.
show up and we jump to his for the moment?
Yes,
or-
I think we should do, yeah.
All right, come
Whoever's
on down
here.
and let's see what
Can
we
I speak
do.
from here? I don't like speaking in here.
Just talk loud, sure.
All right, this past weekend, there's that, the campsite up on Dam Meadow Road. She had a piece of equipment in there. I noticed she went over boundaries. And I talked to the neighbor across the street from him, and I know you popped in. Talked to him about coming close to the road. And I still gotta notify the water district, cause right where they were cutting in, or digging down, there's a water valve that's flush with the road there, but it's on the dirt side. But I'm trying to complain is, but number one, she's crossed boundaries every which way.
See what? I
Um,
didn't hear what you said.
she crossed boundaries.
Oh,
One
cross
onto
bound,
other-
oh,
One onto town property, I believe, because there was a stake in the ground that was blue marked. I think she went over that, and she put big size rocks on town property, dirt on town property. She lined up everything, part of her stuff is being on town property. If you look straight back, she had part of a fishing boat that's beyond 80 feet into the woods. I believe it's town/district property. I don't know how it's situated now with district. They call it District 7 or District 5. Where you guys gonna put that fire station out?
right, the firehouse
Yeah.
owns the upper side
Yeah.
of that land. I mean, it shows that the town of Webster owns it, but it was donated to build a firehouse. so
right,
it-
remember that.
It's, the land is actually owned, is the firehouse
Webster.
land.
Huh?
So, I got a call the Sunday of the rain and said there was mud going out into the road, and it was gonna cause an accident. So, I had enough stuff on the other end of town to deal with, so I ran down. There was a gentleman on the blacktop with a mini excavator, and it was just coated with mud, and rerouting the water and blocking it from the natural stream. And I just said, well, you know, you really shouldn't be doing this. And I said, the real thing you shouldn't be doing, and I've got a video of it, and I explained to him, if somebody gets into an accident with this mud in the road, you're responsible for it. And then I left, and I took it they were coming to the town hall. I didn't see her, she wasn't there, but there's tracks onto the town land with the mini excavator, and I don't know how many loads of dirt they've hauled in there. So now the natural flow, it's backing the water up. So I don't know.
Yeah, because everything's all differently positioned now. She
Then I got a call Saturday during the chicken barbecue, wanting to know what somebody could do because she had all the stuff at the clubhouse. And I told her, I said, that's the person that called, I said, that's a town issue. I said, I don't have nothing to do with the clubhouse or any of that, so, what's going on at the clubhouse, I can't help you with.
Yeah, we can't either. That's the Easter Lake Village District. I
Right.
do not know.
I know that was taken care of by Lisa,
Yeah, I don't
from what I
know.
heard.
You what? What'd you say?
I heard through the grapevine or a third party that was taken care of by Lisa Robinson.
Oh,
Because within 2 hours, all the stuff is moved back to on the road again, up at their
Because
residence.
Friday night, I got a call to go down there, and the tongue of the camper trailer was out into the road, out onto the tar a foot and a half with, and you had to drive around it, and it was just anchored there. It stayed there all night long.
It was gone Sunday when I came in, because I work Sunday.
Yeah, no, this was a week ago.
Oh.
A week ago, during the storm. So, I mean, rerouting water and, I don't know,
Mhm.
so I think, I don't know what the answer is.
Well, that was gonna be I had 3 issues.
Mhm.
That was the first one, crossing all boundaries.
yeah.
Issue number 2 is the sanitation. I talked to the neighbor across the street, and the lady, I don't know her name, but told the lady across the street with the feces that when they use the bathroom, you go in the bucket and then bring it over a friend's house. I'm just going by what the neighbors had told me. I just can't see that happening. I can see them, if they're using a bucket, it's going out in the woods.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a sanitation issue.
So to that point, that was something that had kind of been brought up a while back when she had come in trying to do various things. And that was basically, supposedly, is now a non-issue because she's not living there. Whereas she was definitely living there in the past, said, I'm not living there, canceled all of her stuff with the planning board and ZBA after declaring that she was not and won't be living there. So if that is changing, then that's a different thing that needs to be looked into.
I seen the car there at night. She's been there at night. And I didn't know at the time until I talked to Dana this morning, when I brought it to his attention.
Okay, so we'll have to look into the living situation, and if so, then that's, yeah, the same sort of concern as before. And what's the third one?
The third one is, I can't see a personal residence have 3 good-sized boats with trailers being owned by one person. Because the boats seem like, say, 10, 15,000 or more, probably even more after the COVID seals. But my point is, she's putting there storage for someone or people, is she collecting money? Because
That's what
right
I-
now there's 3 boats.
And that would seem like a business, yeah.
There's a hot tub that just came in within last week on a trailer. And it's just looking sad altogether. I feel bad for the neighbors, because it's like the same story on the Camille's on 127,
Yeah.
103 there.
Okay, so, obviously, we don't have our third select board member, but the process, I think, is gonna be the same no matter what, which would be that we need to find out and send out our inspector for, one, the boundaries.
Yeah.
And let's make sure that they're actually the boundaries and that this is going on and he can document it and put it in a report. two, this is the first time that at least I have heard that she's back living there again, which she's specifically not allowed to do. So somehow that needs to be looked into.
We'll check it every morning.
Okay.
I mean, we're there
And then
at 6 AM
the,
anyway.
the third issue is that if she provides receipts or whatever, that she owns the stuff, who cares? But if she's running a business, that has to go through a ZBA case in order to have a business property and be able to open a business in any place here, because we don't have commercial or business districts in our zoning. So we need to find out what's actually going on there.
Well, I
and then-
know,
yeah.
when she was in front of the planning board, a man from the planning board told her that she had to have, before she could move up there, she had to have a plan, what kind of house she's gonna live in, septic, where the septic's going, where the water's going, and all that. So I guess she hasn't done that at all.
No,
But I know he made it out point blank to her, and I remember saying, oh yeah. So, but I do notice that she, all of a sudden, there's all kinds of, more stuff up there, boy, must be pretty good.
yep,
Yeah, because I did check with a neighbor today to make sure I was correct about with the living status, and she's been there quite a bit during the night, according to the neighbor that lives directly across the street from them.
all right. So I think we have the plan on that, and then when we get the report back, we can, as a whole board, decide how to send letters of enforcement, et cetera, based on what's in the past
Okay.
and what's discovered.
Yeah, because she can't, I know she's from Montana or something, and evidently they don't have zoning up there, and I told her, we have zoning here, we can't, like, you get away with stuff, you know.
We
because
can
that-
suggest she move to Canaan. They don't have zoning either.
Oh, they don't? Really? Wow.
But
Well,
anyway,
I'm glad we do have zoning.
all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any further information about the other enforcement matters, or I should say, code enforcement complaints?
So the only other code enforcement complaint that I'm aware of is the chickens that's in your packet.
Because we've got the towing and the Long Street listed.
Yeah, well, they're not.
Yeah,
But they're not.
Amy Bird is here.
Yeah.
Long Street,
Yes.
and I think this is
Perfect.
totally.
Thank you.
Oh, that's okay, yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on to that then, now that we have one of our appointment folks. So come on down and,
We go to there? This is
Yeah,
the first time I've ever done this.
yeah, so yeah, come on down and
Yeah, chicken down, so.
just for the record, state the names and let us know what's up.
My name is Amy Burke.
Jonathan Brett.
Welcome.
Apparently there was a complaint saying that we are running a commercial company out of our home.
Okay. So it's the, I thought you might have been the complainers, I read it wrong.
No, the one who came to the meeting last time was the
Yes,
complainant.
yes, thank you.
And who was that?
Daniela Frilette,
Roulette, Froke, something like that.
yeah,
It should
Across
be
the
on
street.
here.
The lady with the horse,
maybe,
straight across from us?
yeah.
Yeah.
I believe she mentioned being across from you, yes. So, I believe, Russ, you have some information from this. What do we have at this point?
So what we had was, she came and made a complaint. She showed me some notifications and some ads that were listing the business at that location, so I ran it through the New Hampshire Secretary of State's website, and it said the primary business location was at 1097 Long Street, so that's what we used to put together the evidence to say that there was a business there. Now, they're saying you're not operating the business there?
Correct. So the principal
Okay,
is 29 Blake Road, actually in Epping.
yeah,
And when we moved from Epping to Webster, so we don't operate out of Webster, we operate actually out of Bow. but we get our mail here in Webster.
Yep.
So I
Which is
had to
what you
call the
told me.
Secretary of State to find out exactly which address we should be putting down, and they said, well, where are you getting your mail from? Out of,
Okay.
you know, because we're not changing the principal address.
Okay.
And so I told her we were getting our mail at Webster, but we're operating out of Bow.
Right.
Which I do have a website that states that we are in Bow, New Hampshire, you know, for both of our companies
Okay.
that we have, so,
Which is what I also saw too, 'cause I saw when I looked at it that there was a Bow office.
yes.
And I didn't know what was going on in that situation, so I'm just trying to cover my bases.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry you got tossed into all this.
No, that's
but-
okay. That way, this is clear too, because we have a second company, a truck repair
Right.
shop. So that one was strictly in Bow, so this is how they were able to separate the two businesses, even though we're operating out of the two, because I don't get my mail there. That's very confusing for the post office, apparently.
Now, sorry, I'm taking over a little bit. When you were talking to the Secretary of State, do you have any of that in writing?
No, I don't.
Okay, because I was hoping, because then you could provide.
I mean,
that
I
to the
wouldn't have
board.
thought to even get any of
Yeah.
that. I mean, this was back in, what, 2018, 19, so.
Yeah,
I mean, I can change it if I have to. It's
right.
just, it's gonna be,
We ain't gonna get our mail.
yeah, we can probably get our mail, because we hardly ever get the one for the repair part.
So for the sake of some clarification, just trying to remember some of the complaint portions.
Yep.
Part of that was, of course, the number of trucks that made it look like there was a business that was operating out of your property, et cetera.
Only one moves.
How,
Yeah, only
how,
one
how many are
works.
there? What's actually used and in and out and that sort of thing?
There's only one being used.
And there's how many there? 3 others?
3 or 4. I don't know.
Are they all registered?
No.
Just the one
They're
that's being
parked.
used?
Yeah.
And so if they are parked but not registered, are they within easy sight of the road, or are they like behind the house?
Well,
or
2 are
something?
down by the barn, 2 or 3. There's one by the house. And the one I always use.
Okay.
But the one I always use is lettered up and all legal. I mean, if you go past, you can see which one I always drive.
So, there's a difference here, and I don't wanna throw him under the bus, but I know they're his trucks, but I know the goal behind this. They're not parts trucks, the trucks are gonna be rebuilt someday, correct?
Yep.
So it's not like stripping stuff off and putting them onto other stuff. That's, because there's cab over down there that I'm gonna end up with if I have my way about it. Just, yeah.
So if the truck is coming in and out of your property all the time, but this isn't where the business is,
That's me.
how are you separating that from like, this isn't where I'm running the business out of?
We have drivers, so basically this is like my driver taking their truck home. He's the driver
Okay,
of
so
the
he's
truck.
one of X number.
Yes, yes,
For the company.
yes,
Okay.
yep, absolutely.
But
Perfect.
you have a select board member here that has a trucking company. One of their drivers lives in Webster, and he doesn't bring the truck home every night, but he brings it home a lot of nights. And it's like,
Yeah, I'm just trying to clarify like what actually
Actually
is
going
happening.
on.
So-
I mean, if I had the trucking company here, you'd see about 15 trucks outside.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
There's a huge difference. I don't think I could park them all.
Do you have
Go
any
ahead.
other questions for them while we have them here? Or,
No? No.
So, Russ, where does that leave us based on the information about where the businesses are registered and so on and so forth?
I mean, that's why it's going to the board, I
It's
believe.
sounds, so the business is registered in Bow or Epping,
Correct.
and then, so the business address being here as well, like, you mentioned that was just for
Yeah,
mail, or?
Actually forgot to bring my copy of the thing, but it states like your principal address and then
I can look it up.
I was gonna say, if you could look it up quickly, you know, I think it's principal address and then primary address. Which primary is basically, from what the lady that I spoke to explained it to me, is more mailing.
Yeah.
So when somebody looks it up, if they have to file a complaint or whatever, they can get that mailed to me.
Mhm.
So that's how I was explained
So
it.
what's the name of the company again?
J. Burt
J. Breyer.
and Sons Trucking, LLC.
Cause you don't have any signs in front of your house that are all saying a business, and I know that.
No, no.
It's gonna make me do that thing, which I hate.
No, the truck's a billboard in himself.
You want, oh, yeah, well, yeah, that's true, that's true.
I mean, we do have signs in Bow.
So, yeah, well, so basically,
Yeah.
that's your prime
Yes.
business location.
Yeah, it's where the drivers have to take the trucks every weekend, park them so we can work on them.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
It's where everything gets stored.
Let's see if the Secretary of State will load. There we go.
Internet's slow today.
So this is the one at good standing, and it says the principal office address is, which we just talked about, 1093 Long Street, so maybe it's not 1097, whoops. Mailing address and principal address are both listed at 1093. And that's what I see on the Secretary of State's website. And it also shows the business address is 1093 Long Street. So all three are 1093 on the New Hampshire Secretary of State's website.
That's weird because I just looked it up and printed it out and it had 29 Blake Road.
There is 20, that's the registered office address and the registered mailing address. So we have a principal office address, a mailing address. We have 4 different addresses, or 4 different spots where addresses are shown.
you're so popular.
That's a lot of spots.
So you know I'm not lying, it's right there. And then if you go scroll down, it shows it, I can show the board too. But this is,
You can barely see.
you can
Well,
this is where the confusion
You
happens.
stated it, so that's good enough for me on that.
Well, I'm sorry, you've looked it up and you said it shows.
Yeah,
us
so
what
I
you
logged
have.
into my quick start, which is
What I'm looking at.
what you're looking at. So when I logged in, that's all it had was principal address and then the primary address.
Is it something you can print?
I have it printed.
Oh, you do?
But I forgot it at my office
Okay,
today. I
maybe you
was in
could
a
get it
hurry.
to us, that.
Yeah,
yeah.
that would be good.
Yeah.
So, my thinking is that based on what they've said, and this is, you know, one person driving their company truck home.
Yeah,
That makes perfect sense. I personally don't have a problem with anybody taking their company vehicle home.
Yeah. No,
If-
you
As long
can't.
as their company says that's okay, then it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The question for the vehicles that are not registered, is why are they at your residence instead of at the business garage?
Because at the business garage, we've been having a lot of theft. Parts have been coming up missing.
Homeless people.
what was that? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said the parts off the trucks
Yeah.
have been missing from
There's-
all the homeless
So
people
where
down
our
there.
garage is, it's,
Oh, in Bow,
They've
you
been
mean?
stealing
Yeah.
parts
I was
off
gonna
of
say, I
it.
didn't think we had too many homeless people in Webster.
no. So our garage is like right in front of
The power
the
plant.
power plant, and there's the railroad tracks right there.
Oh, yeah,
And Bo P had let us know, you know, brought to our attention, like, hey, there's some homeless people going through and there's been thefts. So we started looking at our stuff, and these are old trucks that you can't actually get
yeah, right,
the original parts for.
yeah, right.
So he ended up bringing the ones that are worth the most to the house, so we can watch them.
Now, was it one of your trucks or one of your neighbor's trucks that one of them homeless people was sleeping in the sleeper cab? Was that somewhere down along there? Someone was.
That was Barry's.
Was it?
Well, we
Yeah.
did have that
Well, I had that
scrap
one that
truck.
arrested.
That scrap truck. We did have one sleeping in there, but we never caught them in there. We ended up scrapping the truck.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if it was
Yeah.
one of yours
Oh,
or
yeah.
somebody, because I had heard,
We never saw them, but there was things that were just like, well, we never did that, you know, in the bunk, so we knew that they were in there. Yeah.
One thing that I think we should make sure is apparent for the sake of it, what size of trucks are we talking about for, like, what you're driving every day in and out of there and, like, that's stored there? Are we
Tractor
talking?
trailers.
So they are full-size
Yeah.
tractor trailers.
That's all I drive.
And so why would you be driving the tractor trailer back and forth each day instead of a more economical vehicle that would seem.
Because I haul every
would make more
day.
sense for you.
I don't leave the house unless I have to work.
Yeah, he basically hauls for Chucky Rose here anyways, so he's always like right here in Webster and going from there to.
Okay. So for the informational part of this, based on what's currently sitting in front of us with the, you know, that's a registered business address, et cetera. We don't have any business or commercial zoning in town. So in order to do a business in town, has to go through the ZBA for appropriate process in order to make that happen. So whether or not there's a requirement for it because of, you know, how it's listed on the state, et cetera, you may want to consider that process just to cover all of your bases, since you have a good chunk of the business there with you going in and out of there, operating out of
It's
there.
not a good chunk, it's
Plus
like
having
5%.
the additional vehicles there. Obviously, there's other business going on out of the business office and so on and so forth. But as a minimum, I would recommend you look into that process, and I know that Russ can get you all of the
Yep.
information for that.
Okay.
I think before we decide anything, we need to have the documentation that you mentioned, so please make sure that you get that to one of the two of them.
Okay.
And we'll look at it with the entire board when we get to that point.
That's a good idea.
Anything else you're thinking about this, or wanting to make sure that we have?
I
so
think
we can
people
make a
have to
decision next
understand what
time?
it is, and so, that, I think, when she's talking about it, I think we get the paperwork and stuff, that'll be good.
Okay.
Okay.
And is there something, anything I'm missing there is to make sure that we have everything we need when
Nope.
we have the full board to look at that?
I think you've got it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did you want us to bring this up at the next meeting?
I think we should probably put it on the agenda so we can decide one way or another what should be done, whether that's, hey, it's okay, or they need to go to the ZBA, or we're waiting on the State Department to fix something on their database or whatnot, so.
Okay, so that's August 7th, and it's gonna be at the old meeting house
Okay.
instead of here, in the event you're
Well, it's
interested.
closer for you, it's right down
Yeah.
I was
there.
gonna say, I don't know where any of this is, cause.
That's right up there. by
Right around the
library,
corner
right?
from you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
Yeah. bring
Yeah,
it
the
last
historic
night.
meeting house, that's up there.
Okay. All right. August 7th, you said. I'm going to put that in my calendar.
Yes, because we typically meet the first and third Monday of each month, and so that'll be our next one. We're a little off this month because of holidays, but, all right.
And what time is that usually at?
That's 6:30.
6:30, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see our other appointment here,
I don't either.
so,
That's part of the book, so,
you can go, you don't have to hang on. Yeah, I don't think.
If
that
you
I'll
would,
try to-
please, Amy, that would be
Okay.
great.
Like I said, I've never been to a town meeting.
I think I would've remembered you were here, but.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't think I wanna try to go into any details on that appointment without them being here.
That's a good way to do it.
So
Correct.
I'll go ahead and wait on that. You can ask them if they would like to be on the next meeting schedule. Actually, since they're not here, do we just wanna see if they sign up for the next one? Because they can certainly submit. They've got plenty of time.
It's true.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that then. So that moves us on to old business, which is the transfer station agreement. For those of you that weren't there, we did have a joint meeting with the Hopkinton Select Board to go back and forth about the transfer station agreement, which, let me find the spot here for the date, was last amended by the two towns at town meeting in March of 1989 as the Hopkinton-Webster Refuse Disposal Agreement. Things for at least a decade have not been functioning the way that that agreement is written, and probably doesn't make sense to try to run it the way that the agreement is written. And so this was the start of the two towns trying to talk about rewriting the agreement in a way that makes sense and can actually work and reflect reality with itself. What we were charged with as board members on both sides was to talk about how we would like to see that structured and or specific items that we wanted to see in it, so that we could begin having the town administrators talk with each other to come up with what an appropriate agreement would look like according to both boards. So today we'll be starting to talk about that. Did you have anything you wanted to say about it before we?
No, I think you've
jump into anything?
said it well. At the meeting last week, it was said that both boards would go individually and go over some points that they wanted to include in a revised amended agreement. And there are things in this amended agreement that I believe the board intends to do away with.
So this was for each of us individually, so these are completely my own thoughts. My thinking on this is that we should not have the committee at all, and that day-to-day operations should be covered by their DPW, as is currently happening. That any significant expenses that are not emergency, for whether it's the shipping containers, the hopper, rebuilding the recycling building, etc., all should be done through the CIP committees, but that for this portion, the CIP committees need to meet and agree jointly on what the plan is for the recommendation of there should be one of these or two of these in X number of years at this total cost. Whether the boards decide that this is the year that they want to set that money aside or not is obviously budgeting committee for them or select board for us. And then, of course, townspeople. The last portion that was talked about a lot last week, but I think it's kind of a misnomer here, is that anything that that is going to happen should always, by both towns, whether it's select board or warrant articles, use the language that this is contingent upon it passing in the other town as well. And if one of the towns decides that they want to move forward in one manner, that whether the other town agrees or not, they can drop that language, but then they would be on the hook for all costs associated with that program and/or get all revenues from that program. The particular program that was talked a lot about is the Green Bag program that they run. And basically, to summarize that conversation, they have a Green Bag program, have problems enforcing it, and want someone to do enforcement. And of course, want us to adopt it. But that is a separate thing, and so I'm all for letting them do it if they want to do it. They should go ahead and do it if they want to do it. And if Webster wanted to do it, I'm all for Webster going ahead and doing it. Regardless of what I may or may not think or support in those regards, it's fine if the towns decide they want to do something or not. And so I think that should resolve the issues of where things go and how they're apportioned out financially. The challenge always has been and always will be when things move forward and direction is being chosen. And so, for example, and this was brought up as well, for a period of time, recycling was costing money, not acting as a revenue. And there had been talk that perhaps those costs would be folded into operating costs to continue a recycling program versus it hoping to pay for itself and actually offset the cost of the trash. In situations like that, that is not one town deciding to do something. This is a cost of operation, so the towns really have to agree on it. And so anything that's a major, like, policy direction change really, in my opinion, has to go through the select boards. And that's not because I want to be in charge, because quite frankly, I'm probably not going to run again. It's been fun and I like it, but time. But the select boards are the ones that are most directly accountable to the voters. And so if you don't like the direction of it, find a select board person that will do the direction that you want. And I think that's the most fair way to do those large policy-driven sorts of things. There were other committees that spoke, but those are not associated with this agreement nor how the station runs. Those are, we'd like to do these other programs, and that's a separate budgeting thing in and of itself. The one thing that I would suggest is something I don't know how to solve correctly in the budgetary portion of this, is because they run a budget committee and a select board that all have their own recommendations, and then how eventually it gets put in based on the data that they have in front of them from the transfer station and DPW. How does that most appropriately tie in with our budgeting? Because at this point, in the past, we have shown up to the presentation and basically the approval of their select board for what's gonna go to their voters. And like, okay, so we're gonna have to pay 25% of that. We're not really involved in the process. And that's been okay, but it would certainly be easy for it not to be okay. And I don't know how to resolve that part of it. So I'd like maybe you and Neil to try and see if there's any other towns that have this sort of agreement to do that.
I think the biggest thing that would help toward that is better communication.
Yes.
Neil and I have talked about that. And I guess I would need to, I believe that when they meet with you to present that budget, and don't know this for sure, but I believe that that is their final,
Correct.
recommended
It has been so
budget.
far, yes.
which basically, in the past, you've just heard what their recommended budget was and know that we had to be responsible.
Yeah, this is what our line item's gonna have to be as a result.
25%. So, I'll work with Neil and see how we can make it so the communication is better and what the budget entails and what their, stresses are and other things they need to solve. I think that's one way,
So
maybe not the
I
only
kind
way.
of looked at the program as a whole instead of how do we solve like number one and number two about the committee, et cetera. And so that's my thinking of a structure for the agreement. I'm completely, like, that's just my thought, so
Mhm.
that's not saying it should or has to be that way. What did you wanna say about it?
Well, I kinda think it works pretty well right now. I mean, but we don't have a committee, we haven't had a committee for a dump.
You mean the way
committee.
it's running, not
Yeah,
the way it's
right,
in the agreement?
right, yeah, right, the way it's running seems to be all right. I mean, I think we do a pretty good job myself. So it was
Oh, yeah.
interesting, though, it was really interesting.
Yes, what is currently being done works very efficient.
Yeah, that's what I think, so, if it's, not broken, we don't need to fix it.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to figure out the best way to kind of codify doing that in the agreement, while also having at least a few of the major in case of
Yeah.
issues covered.
And that's the one thing we did say, that we don't like big surprises, so we kind of do our CIP stuff, and we want to know ahead of time so we can plan on the budget, because we don't want to be really surprised.
Yep.
So I think they understood that too, so.
So I think where I'm going to go with this is before the next meeting. You're meeting with them, I think it's September 11th. It's the next meeting, the joint meeting.
August, September. So if the 4th was the Labor Day, yeah, I think that is actually the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of,
So why don't I take your suggestions and start framing it in an agreement? And obviously, this is a work in progress and will take some time to flush out.
Yeah. And then we can look at that as a board at the next one and.
Yeah.
And
And
if
or
we
even
like
the
it.
next couple of meetings.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if we think that's appropriate once it's there, or if you've got a few minor things, we can send it to them and say, this is the kind of thing we were thinking about, and hopefully Neil can do the same for us.
One question that I have is, I wasn't completely clear of this recycling committee is separate from
Yes,
so in other words, that does not affect this agreement at all?
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Which is interesting, because and maybe we need to ask Neil how that ties in with them, because they have ideas for programs and stuff that they want to pursue, such as towards composting for individuals and so on, which would have a cost associated with it. And at least here, unless it's in an approved budget, there's no way for us to ever consider putting something like that in, and that's not just a cost of running the transfer station. So maybe ask him how, where, and when that shows up in the budgeting. Because we may have to look at it, even though it's not part of the agreement, And I don't think it should be part of the agreement, but we may have to look at where and how that happens.
Again, that's gonna be a communication.
Right.
Issue.
Yeah.
And maybe we can find some Webster residents that would be willing to sit on that
Yeah,
committee,
and,
separate from the agreement.
and as far as the communications part, we should have something set up as at least a time frame of like, this is when we're gonna get stuff. And I don't know what they're currently doing for reporting. We obviously do monthly department head meetings. I don't know if that's necessarily appropriate for them to go over with the transfer station, but I would say at least quarterly, we should get some sort of written report.
Their financial administrator is very good about being able to produce reports, so we could have, maybe at the same time, have a monthly report or something
Okay.
like that, of where we are.
Okay, that sounds good. But like, I know we only pay them, it's either quarterly or bi-year, twice a year.
I think we've been billed twice a year.
I think so.
We just had a bill, maybe it's in
So-
this run, but.
But we should definitely see reports at least before those by a few weeks
I
or
think it's a
whatever.
good idea, yeah.
And so that should probably be in the agreement.
Mhm.
Any other thoughts?
No, sounds like you guys have got it under control.
Well, we hope. We can only hope.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. Keep up with it.
Yeah, because the original agreement covers like where the facility is going to be constructed. And like, it's already there now, so a lot of those things don't really need to continue to exist, I don't think.
We
Yeah, because it's
also
already done.
should think of the issues that we're going to face regarding cleanup of the septage pits or whatever.
Well, so that's to go outside of the, and maybe we should be looking at how that works in the agreement, but that's one of those like emergency type things, but not really. And because there's we've got an engineer, they're doing things, everything's okay, and then all of a sudden, it's not. And it's easy to understand both sides of that, like we're doing the engineering, we're addressing what we were told we have to address. Now they've changed what we have to address, but maybe we should have seen it coming. Like, I get all of those arguments. I'm not saying one way or another for this particular situation. But there has to be some, how do we handle emergency things? And I think that's probably gotta go through select board. Because in the end, we're the ones that are the
Make the
budget people
decisions,
in
right.
both towns. Obviously, we have to have like their DPW and stuff providing all the feedback and reports and like how we got here and what needs to be done. But ultimately, I think that would have to be the select boards. They wanted to have, so they mentioned wanting a committee that would only be advisory because they would do the research and then tell the boards what to do. I like the concept, but in practice, that just leaves a lot of people feeling like they're not really doing much, kind of like it had been. And so I'm not against a committee existing, but I think if they want a committee to exist to do that, they're gonna have to, they would have to specify exactly, this is what the committee will do, and this is what their responsibility is, and this is where that responsibility ends, and the boards have to take over, and you have to make the decision, sort of thing. And then, of course, like how the payment percentages and stuff are done are in the agreement. And it's based on census, et cetera. I don't see any reason to change any of that sort of thing. With the exception of, you know, if one town votes to do something and the other doesn't.
Yeah.
So. Do you see anything in there that I did not cover that we really need to look at?
I'm sure I'll come up with something, but right now, right now I don't. And again, it's a work in progress. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I think we'll find out lots of things, I think, in the
Okay.
future.
So I guess that moves us on to new business. We did cover code, that was the code enforcement, we touched
Well,
on
there
that.
was another complaint
Yeah.
There's
we
a-
got-
Okay.
about chickens in the
Oh, yes.
Berry Lake Village District.
Oh.
And it is not zoned for agriculture.
Do we have, this looks like it came from the commissioners, do we, I don't see them here, did they provide any other statements or anything for us?
That's what they provided, and I'm surprised it came from the commissioners, because that's not who made the complaint. But apparently they filled out the form. Unless he is a commissioner, I'm not sure.
Who?
Michael Malika?
He's a commissioner.
Oh, okay, so then it is from the,
Okay, so it was
That explains
listed, so the violation description
does
is
explain.
citizens' complaints regarding the raising of poultry in a non-agricultural district.
correct.
Sorry, zone.
So
Um,
I think we're gonna have to send the code inspector out to go verify that it's at the correct address and.
Yeah, I would simply state before we, and since this is a topic now, I'd simply state that there are several layers of where things happen when dealing with Pillsbury Lake at this point. There's our normal zoning, which is what the town deals with. There's what was Pillsbury Lake Management and their agreements and HOA sorts of things, which doesn't exist anymore. But some of those things, perhaps including poultry, are in deed restrictions on various properties within the
It is in the
district.
deed restriction.
However, since the HOA that was Pillsbury Lake Management no longer exists, the official avenue of that would be citizen to citizen, neighbor to neighbor, based on their deeds, from my understanding. And then the last section of things is what falls under the actual district itself, which is mostly water
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So kind of the different layers. And if somebody wants to do something in a zone that they are not zoned for, then, correct me if I'm wrong, but the appropriate action for them would be to go to the ZBA and
Right.
get an exception.
The only problem is, and this is probably a question for an attorney, I'm not sure if the ZBA can grant a variance for something that's against a deed restriction. Cause it's in the deed that they can't do it.
Okay.
It's not a
It's
town
still
thing.
in the deed.
It's still in the deed.
Okay, then yes, the town would not be able to do that then.
Correct.
Okay.
So all of Pillsbury Lake has deed restrictions on not
I
having
think there's
poultry?
21 deed restrictions, something around that, about what
There's a
you are
bunch.
and are not able to do. in
Really?
Pillsbury Lake.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
I have it on my computer somewhere, I should've brought it with me.
The enforcement of
One of
deed
them is no
restrictions
poultry.
is somewhat.
See, a couple weeks ago, I did talk to
Yeah,
someone.
it's usually a neighbor suing a neighbor
Yeah.
about it. You know,
But
you're
I-
not
Kind of
adhering
what
to
I
this
thought,
and
yeah.
we signed that everyone here has to.
Right.
But I know like in Boston, they can have chickens and stuff, as long as they're not a rooster, they can have a few chickens and stuff.
There you go.
It's the
That's-
roosters.
It's a rooster right now.
Oh, see,
Which all
yeah.
the complaining about. Cause 2 weeks ago, I was at a party, this topic came up. The rooster starts crowing at 4:35 in the morning.
Yeah,
should
oh,
be up.
yes,
And it's nonstop throughout the day.
You should be up.
You should be up and already had your first cup of coffee and on your way to work, and if you were working, you wouldn't hear the rooster all day in your backyard. It's a good way.
But that's the
So-
problem, it's the roosters, cause in a way, I'd like to see people having a couple of chickens for their eggs and stuff, you know, save them a little money.
But
Yeah.
But the roosters are, and I know like in Bosquen, you can have chickens, but you can't have a rooster.
But the
Well,
neighbors did approach that family, and they're saying it's a family pet. But Pillsbury Lake is zoned as residential, like you said.
Oh, it's gonna get
And
dicey.
that's where this is all stemming about.
Since you have those deed restrictions, can you do a cursory look through them? And then as appropriate, perhaps instead of sending out well, do you know if it's a rooster or is it a rooster and chickens?
Everyone's complaining about the rooster.
Yeah, cause
That they have
chickens,
chickens there,
Okay.
but they're
so-
not complaining about the chickens, it's the rooster.
well, yeah, I could see that, cause I had roosters under my bedroom window and like 4:30 in the morning, boy, they were like clockwork. I finally gave them away, thank God.
So I wanna try to separate things, whether it's chickens or a rooster, doesn't actually matter, as far as this is concerned.
It says poultry, I think, in the deed
And
restrictions. Or the
so,
way
and I wanna also clarify that neither the town nor really the state have a noise ordinance. So there's no like, you're not allowed to make noise at this point in time, by like timeframes. There's some interesting language in state RSAs that would be hard to pin down precision. And we've talked about that with other explosions in town in the past. But I just wanna point out that whether it's roosters or chickens, it would be treated exactly the same way by a poultry deed restriction. And so, whether it's crowing at 4:30 in the morning or not is not something that actually matters. I mean, sure, it's annoying if you're next door, but that's not what matters legally. And so, I guess we do need to send out the inspector to verify what's actually there, whether it's a rooster or rooster and chickens, whether it's one or two or like 30, I hope not. You know, so that the details are actually there.
No, that's a good
And
idea.
then, I still don't think that it's the town's place to deal with that if it's deed restrictions, but we should, after we have the appropriate information,
It's in the ordinance.
ask the attorney who is supposed to do what and how much for this sort of issue.
See, the other thing too, with that rooster, it does echo across the lake.
Oh, I believe
You
it.
can hear it all the way, probably a mile away with that lake.
They can be loud, I know.
Yeah, no, yeah, and then they'll pay $35 to go down to Hoptic and Fair to listen to them.
I think sending the inspector out is a good idea, so we verify the facts.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we should do that, and then, depending on what comes, like, if it comes back as a few, then we should probably ask the attorney what the best next steps are, and then bring that back to the board at the next meeting. If it's like 40 or 50, then that's probably business sorts of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Which is completely different.
Does say on the restrictions and easements, no fire animals.
What was that?
Right, but we're not going off of what the easement
Yeah.
says, we're going by what our zoning
Oh,
ordinance
yeah.
says. Cause we can't enforce the easement. We can't enforce
Yeah.
the zoning ordinance.
So, any other thoughts or comments on that? Since we
I like
have them
chickens,
here?
so.
I love the concept of
Mr.
chickens.
did those too.
They could've brought it up, we could've cooked it up Saturday.
sold it for 15,
Oh,
but
right.
30.
That's
half
what's,
and half.
that's what's gonna end up happening.
So that brings
it's
us
gonna kill
to
it.
tax inventory ordering.
So this is just the form every year to order tax inventory forms.
Yeah,
Needs to be signed by the select board. I know there was some discussion about trying to do away with these, so I figured I would bring it up to the board again and see where you wanted to go.
Good, you're bringing it up.
I think.
Well,
it-
if we were gonna do away with it, we'd have to put it, we'd have to do something else in its stead. And the suggestion from our assessors was to do a zoning compliance permit, which they've done with other towns. Which means when somebody goes to build a structure, you just verify that it meets the setbacks, and then it goes in just like a permit.
Kind of like a building code, but not really a
Well, it's
building
not
code.
building code, it's just, you measure it.
Well, like as far as, you know, you're putting in a form every time you're building, you're changing something.
Right.
If we have a building enforcement officer going
Yes.
for permitting, for new construction and all that,
Correct.
why do we have to fill out those forms? Because those forms were intent for every, because we weren't getting assessed until every 10 years back then. That's why
Well,
we
right.
went on the forms.
My recollection, or my understanding of it, is because we do not have a permit system or a building code, we use these so that the assessors can have something to pick up on the changes. So it's self-reporting as opposed to having permits.
See, the state back then, because I looked into it back then, they're saying, because we weren't getting assessed, we were going for assessment every 10 years back at the time. That's why this came into play with the state laws back then.
And now that assessment / reevaluation is every 5 years.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's still not often, and these are supposed to be up to date every year. All that if we didn't have these, all that the town gets for the reporting is when you're doing a brand new residential construction. It doesn't count for like, I put a barn up or a shed or whatever. Whereas these do, because that does affect assessed value. And so that's what these forms are designed to catch and be used for.
I think it's just a big nuisance, in my opinion.
It is, but the easy answer around that would be to adopt some
Eliminate
form
it.
of building or zoning code where we always submit stuff when we build or erect anything new or change something that's already up.
Right, and then when somebody was gonna build something, they'd get a hold of Russell and say, hey, I'm building a shed, and he'd say, well, you have to be 50 feet from the side of the stone wall in onto your property,
Mhm.
and then they can't say, well, I didn't know.
Right, because they would have to, and then we'd send somebody
'Cause I
else to
can
look
show
at
you a
it.
handful right now that
So I think it would be a good idea to go that route, but that's not where we're at right now, and town would need to approve that, right?
No,
No.
because we're just verifying that whatever's put up complies with the zoning ordinance. It has nothing to do with the building code,
So
it
to
has
do
nothing to
the-
do with the wiring.
So to do the
Anything.
the zoning permit stuff that you were mentioning, where I'm building or changing something, and so now I need a permit, that doesn't need to be passed by town?
It is, all it is it's already passed. So all you're doing is verifying that it meets the setbacks. Nothing on the inside, nothing about what it's about, it's just that whatever structure's being put up meets the setbacks. There probably need to be a public hearing, we should probably also consult the attorney before we did it, but
Mhm.
that's my understanding.
I don't,
So
it's still not a perfect system.
No.
I
it
mean, I
is-
can see,
It doesn't cover life safety or having, like, anything on the internal, it's just, does it or doesn't it meet the setbacks?
Of course, the even more complete answer to that is to have the planning board work on a actual building
Yeah, we
code.
weren't that
But-
interested.
But that would be more interesting, but that would also go to the townspeople to vote on and decide whether they just wanted to do away with this. And so that's where the power should be, is the people. I don't think we're gonna come to any quick conclusion or change, and I would not want to try to quickly make a change to like, oh, let's do zoning permits.
I wasn't
Yeah, no.
suggesting.
Even if we decided that in a few months, which I don't think we could do that quickly in a reasonable manner to get everybody knowing about it to kind
Right.
of give their
Oh,
two
Well,
cents.
this is why I wanted to bring it up, because I needed to know the direction moving forward.
I think that we should definitely do this and have the inventories again, because that's what everybody's used to.
Yeah, right.
And it's expected. And then we should look at what to do now for the appetite of how it should be addressed, either at town meeting or the town meeting after it, if it's going to be like an actual building code, or at least have, like we did last time, the straw poll sort of thing of like, do you wanna do this instead of inventories before we go into an actual like public hearing situation for doing the zoning and permits? Cause I don't think that's one where it makes sense for us to just try and do it.
Yeah, no, you don't.
So,
I agree.
this is just for us to sign to get the forms?
Yep, I need it signed by the board.
I have to white out my phone number, put my number on that set of yours,
Oh,
and I don't want them calling
Great.
me, so I'll take it.
they
I
don't
put it
call,
on our website, you're all set.
they don't call, David. You don't have to worry about it, they don't call.
So I have a funny question regarding
They
these
just send you
forms.
the,
Isn't there, like, as someone in tech, this seems like a no-brainer that someone should be able to go to a website, either from the state or the assessors, put the information in and we would get it.
Dave,
Dave, you're
please.
expecting a little bit much. This is the state of New Hampshire.
This is a very antique way to do it, and many towns don't.
Many towns don't, most towns.
Most towns don't do
Most
it?
towns
Yeah.
don't. I would say, from what I talked to the assessors, it sounds like about 80% of the towns don't use this.
It would be
Well,
interesting though to find out what they do.
Yeah, because a lot of
Yeah.
towns do have a building code.
Yeah.
So there would
And
be
I
would
no
say
need
that.
for this.
This is what I was talking about Cheryl with it, and she says she's a select board member, and they went to zoning compliance permits to get rid of that, and they're not, and they also suggested for their other towns.
Do what?
Suggest it for other towns.
This seems like
and
the
similar.
sort of thing that NHMA should actually have information from their polling of how many towns have building code and how many have zoning permits.
I'm sure we could ask them that.
Yeah.
So they may have that information, we should ask them.
They should, I would
Because
think
that's
they
not
would.
any advisory anything, and then you could use that to consider stuff. All right,
That was that.
that moves us to correspondence.
You saw the email that I sent you from Representative Allwood. I received another one today, which I'm going to forward to you because it's quite lengthy, talking about working with New Hampshire Municipal Association for lobbyists, and other communities that have had this done. However, I don't think it's the same situation that we're in. So, that's, another work in progress.
Did we ever send the, something back that, for example, said, yes, but we do have a water district? And
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they respond to that, or like, is that a response to that, or is this a more
If it,
general
if it is, they didn't
continuation?
mention it,
Okay,
but I will follow up on that.
okay.
There was an estimate for the wall out here.
Oh, yes.
Finally.
Yes.
What was
And
that?
I said finally.
Emmett's been working on this for quite some time,
Oh.
but the fellow did come over. So the estimate is 2,700.
That's for the materials.
That's just the material.
That's for the materials.
Yeah.
That's not digging it out and setting them into place and stuff, correct?
That's right.
Cause he said he just furnished the materials when
He
he
would just,
talked to me.
yeah, that's right.
And you're gonna build the wall?
He's gonna put it in place, maybe,
Yeah, if it all works.
yeah.
Are we gonna put something on the top so nobody, they know they're not
So
gonna go over
this
the
is
wall
mostly-
again?
So, looking at this is a retaining wall set for
Yeah.
over here. This
Yeah, that's what.
isn't addressing someone driving off the edge.
Oh, that's never happened before.
Since you're here, what do you think about this, and the way forward using this system?
Oh, you mean the cost of the material?
That too, but more like, do you think this is the right solution, and or do you have a different solution that you would envision? Like, do you feel confident putting this in, et cetera?
Oh, I feel confident. The right way to do it is if you could find somebody that was a good rock mason, and kept coming with the rock that's already there, because I don't know who did that job back when they did it, but,
I don't know.
it's, it's artwork and stuff, but this was the next best thing to just put something into place to hold the bank. It's precast, it all goes into place, it all fits into place, and then you fill it in. It's, and then you got the catch basin, the manhole there where the sewer goes across the street and everything to deal with, but, it's entirely what you folks want.
We don't want people going over the top again either, so.
So the comment here for their facing is that this has a premium face that's ledge stone or cobblestone finish. So in theory, it will not look like a cement retaining wall.
No, I had them do that. There was two different options, other than just looking at a piece of cement.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it would
right.
kinda
Okay.
dress it up some. And that's why he asked me what I wanted, and I said, just put it in as a quote, and the folks from the higher up could decide on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It shouldn't just be a cement wall.
Yeah, no, we need a
That would,
little classier.
that would not fit the
Historical.
the historic
the-
look of
The,
what's here.
I mean, once it's in place and it's been there for 3 weeks, a month, somebody's gonna drive in and think it's been there for 100 years anyways. It's just the way,
Mhm.
it's like, gee, how long's that been there?
Knowing that our other board member would abstain anyway, do we have the funds in ARPA to do this still?
No,
No?
No,
we might be able to might just squeeze by buying the
So we've actually used our
Material.
ARPA funds up
but
at this
we
point.
don't have enough for the work to put it in place.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we have a little over $2,000 left in our, that's not committed.
Okay, that's not committed.
We have more than that, but it's been committed, as I should be,
Fair.
IOU.
Weren't one of those commitments one that we weren't expecting to come in at as much as we have set aside for it?
I don't recall which one that was.
I don't either, but I thought we had one that was like that.
Yeah, I think I was hoping that the, record retention wouldn't be as much as we're committed to it. And we may have some left over from when the building project is done with the fobs.
Okay.
But I hesitate to say we'd have enough in that fund to cover the whole job. We do have a property maintenance EFT.
So do you think we would or would not have enough in ARPA for the purchase of the materials?
I think we would,
Okay.
in the ARPA fund, just the materials.
And would we likely have enough in the fund for maintenance of this building knowing that you're also looking at other things to cover taking care of the installation of it.
I think I'm hearing is that we don't have the money in the operating budget.
Right.
That's not what you're asking me, I
Right.
don't think. Would we have enough money in the trust funds? Yes.
Okay. So I would like to suggest that we do the materials from ARPA and the fund as would normally be used for the labor and work to put it in. Do you have any comments or questions on it?
No, I think it'd be nice to have done.
I know
that's
we've
for
been
sure.
waiting on it for a while.
Yeah,
Um,
so, I second that.
Right, and I didn't go stupid high on that, it's gonna come down. I think he said them blocks are 18 inches high and we're only gonna go 3 high. So it's not like somebody's gonna break their leg if they fall off in it.
Because some of that portion of the hill goes up, but most of it is fairly low.
Yeah,
so-
well, it's gotta go, yeah, but when that's out, it's not gonna be in line. It's not gonna be in line, it's gonna step in some from the stone wall that's there because of the roots on the maple tree, because if we go back in too much, that maple tree's gonna be jumped in
Yeah.
2 years. So you gotta keep that in thought as well, so it's not gonna be, it's gonna step in, but it will be behind the curb.
So
But-
this addresses the retaining portion of it. The second thing that we were looking at was drainage as a result, because of, I mean, that's why we needed the retaining, because it was now all draining down the hill off of this parking lot instead of the way that it had originally been hoped for. Have you had a chance to look at that, or is this also considering that?
Well, you're just gonna have to leave that retaining wall a little bit higher than that, and the water's gonna come down in behind it and then go down towards the road and back out. I mean, unless you put drainage and under drainage and all that in, and then you just, if you were gonna do that, you would've done that before you would've paved your driveway, so.
Dave, I misspoke, we are $100 short in ARPA funds. Now, I think that we have enough wiggle room, we could use the ARPA funds. I do have projects that are still out there, the seal coat at the public safety building. There's money left in the sign at the safety building, but I assume we're gonna have further costs on that.
We're gonna have electrical costs.
Electrical costs, and the trailer. We
Right,
still-
and I budget high for that trailer. That trailer's gonna come in, because I've been dealing with them. That trailer's gonna come in, there's gonna be some money there left over, enough to cover that $100 of your,
Okay, I know I'm being a little nitpicky.
no, but you have to be.
Yeah, right.
And I haven't put in June interest yet either, so.
And obviously, we're not gonna do it while the weather is amazing, but do we have any time frame planned for that sealing of the?
Somebody's been really, really busy, so.
The
we've
sealing of
kinda-
the driveway,
Yeah.
Oh,
the sealing of the driveway, you can't get nobody to get back to you. Phil's called some folks, I've called.
I
some
thought it might be that.
it's so busy right now.
But talking about sealing, if you look across the street, Continental brought they're gonna chip seal on Friday. Allstate Asphalt will be in town to do, the White Plains Road from Little Hill, past Mike Borax to the flat, to where we, shimmed that all up a couple of years ago, and then Clothespin Bridge Road, so, traveling on them 2 roads on Friday. I let Russell and them at the town hall know so they could put something on the web.
Yep.
And, Phil
It's up there and we announced it.
and Steve and Phil, so that's gonna take place on Friday. That part.
How needed is that seal at the safety building now versus if we waited to have the second driveway cut and whatever's gonna happen that may dig up a line for the electrical? Like, is that something that makes sense to wait and then just, it's all one surface? Or does it need to happen to make sure that our surface is still okay by the time we get to that?
Well, it really should have been, and we've been putting that upper side off for the last 4 years. It's been a long time since that's been sealed, because we wanted to do it all together with the new driveway, and it was kind of senseless to do just a little bit, but, I'll be honest with you, I'd hate like heck to see if you're gonna cut a section out of that tar from the front of the safety building across, then
We're waiting for an electrician to give us a cost to run, even if we were to cut the driveway, to run it down through there, and he's already questioned wetlands at the bottom, in the gully. And he says, you're looking at a lot of money just to run the conduit with 2 lines all the way down through there. He says, you're looking at somewhere around $10,000 for everything.
It's gonna cost you $4,000 to pave it back in.
And that's gotta go all the way underneath, it's gotta go to the back side of the building where the electrical is, to the electrical panel, which is in the fire side. And he's gotta run conduit all the way down through. Otherwise, he said it won't last.
Up through the walls or, up through the ceiling, that's
So-
quite a project.
Yeah, you
We
would,
will-
you would run conduit to wherever you normally have electricity. in the
You're looking at,
panel.
between that cost, you'd cover more than 10 years of a meter being at the pole. More than 10 years, with less the hassles of worrying about something happening underground or anything. It's-
Especially now that they have the solar stuff straightened
Yeah.
out with the,
We haven't had a bill at the fire station and the police station for 3 months, and we still got a credit. That solar panel is doing
Wow.
an excellent job. It's putting out
you
some
know,
serious.
I wasn't a big fan of it because nobody could ever show you what it was doing for the last how many years, but
Yeah.
now that Dana and,
They got it straightened out, boy, it's,
Dave
Yeah.
have got
Producing.
that on track, I mean, it's work, it's,
Right, it's nice
I
to
don't know what
see.
happens to whatever's in the
Past.
beginning years, but.
As much as I thank you for that, most of it has been this guy just
Yeah, well, all you
harassing
guys,
people
you're
on the
working-
phone and.
You're working as a team, you're working as a team, putting your gears together, and it's working, so.
We've been getting income over the years, but it wasn't, they don't pay you the same amount for their kilowatt, I guess,
Right.
as what you pay when you use it.
Correct.
So I think now at least we're getting paid the same amount that we have to pay if we use it.
Good.
So I'll be curious what it does this winter. It's been a little bit of a mystery of how Unitil figures it.
Yeah, but it,
yeah.
I mean,
But
I've been working with,
I think I'm kinda getting it. You know, one day I'd get a bill for this building that we had an $11,000 credit, and then the next day I'd get a bill that we owed them $856. So, I mean, but I think I'm.
Unitil's billing is,
so anyways, I don't know,
We're still waiting for the electrician to give us a final quote.
he hasn't got back to you yet?
No. He says he's right out straight with a lot of new houses, but he said he'll get here as quick as he can. I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks he'll have our estimate in hand and everything.
Can I ask you a silly question? You're gonna, for that sign, you're gonna come from the firehouse, the safety building. Can't they just hit a pole and bring a line down for that without
we
hitting?
We
can.
can put it 10 feet from the pole, but you're gonna have a meter there, and
That's
it's
what it
a
means,
cost for the
meter.
meter.
But wouldn't it be cheaper to put a meter there than make a big hole in the cement?
That's what
that's
we're,
what he's.
that's what we're trying to weigh out.
Oh, okay.
Right now, as a quick calculation, it'll take 10 years with a meter there to even come close to offsetting the cost underneath.
To dig that up,
Dig it,
lay that
lay the
conduit,
pipe.
put that all back, tar it all in. And then when you tar in a spot like that, no matter who does it, unless you overlay the
Yeah,
top of
right,
it,
still
it just,
It's gonna heave and
it's gonna
crack.
heave, hump.
Yeah, I understand that.
But we'll know better once we get all the final numbers, then we can make a decision.
and then the septic system comes out of the front of that building with the 2 tanks.
Yep.
And then you got your well pipe coming across.
Oh, jeez.
No, have we even found out where the well, did Phil find that out?
Not where the well comes in. We know, we got the well, but we
Yeah.
don't know where the pipes come in.
Yeah,
Is the board gonna make a
Big save.
motion for paying for the materials out of ARPA?
Thanks, Dave.
I think,
Yeah.
based on the discussion, that we should definitely have that there. I think we do that, and if we
Getting into it, that's what we're.
end up with an issue later on, then
Pipes are and wires.
$100 or a couple $100 for another project comes out of its appropriate trust fund.
Yeah, well, I just,
Okay.
I hate to have to backpedal, which is why, but I haven't put in the June interest either, so.
So,
And if Steve doesn't spend his money, then I have some more interest.
so I would move that we accept
Two metal
the
coatings.
quote for the Ready Rock wall,
Okay.
materials to get paid from
go
ARPA.
down and walk.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
The last thing I had in communications, I just included this article that was in the NHMA magazine regarding these First Amendment
Those are
audits,
fun.
which I thought was a very interesting article. If you haven't had a chance.
Which
to
why
read
you
it.
might see employee-only signs in the town hall now.
So,
What's that?
and you can keep that, Dee,
Oh, thanks.
it's, I think it's probably more geared to a larger town, people going around trying to catch towns that,
Well, it's already happened to us once.
well, we did have someone come and wanted to take pictures of the building, and
Really?
was hoping I wouldn't let him, but,
Yeah, that was within the first,
Yeah.
I think 3 or 4 months that we were here.
I know.
That was a
Really?
while ago.
All right.
It was during COVID, the whole building was empty, you know.
Yep.
Go to it.
Take some pics.
Okay, is there any further correspondence?
That's it, thank you.
Minutes.
All right, that brings us to public comment.
No public
Do
comment.
we have any further public comment?
I just, you wanna wait? What the Roby Road, I mean, we're there, we're working. What's your thoughts?
As far as,
Well, doing it right, or just scabbing it back together and having it go to crap in a,
personally, I'm always a fan of do it right once, but that's not quite as applicable with roads, because you still have to
I've
keep doing
already,
it, but-
there was two 15-inch pipes where the problem starts. Richard George is the, property owner on the other side of the road. And he said he wouldn't live long enough to see it done right. So we bought a 30-inch pipe and put a 24-inch pipe beside of that, and he's probably one of the happiest men in the town of Webster. And then we went downstream where the other pipe went across the road, and every time it rains and it jumps up over there, the ditch is so deep into the front of the culvert, and there's a stone, when the reason the ditch is so deep is the stone wall is here, so you can't make it stone wall. So I bought a couple of catch basins, so the water, well, I shouldn't say the town, we've purchased a couple of catch basins. So they'll go down into the ground and the water will stay on top, so you don't need a 6-foot thing. So I have all the pipe and the catch basins and everything to do with the drainage. And then at the bottom of the hill, where the big stream comes out of Josh Taylor's, and then what comes down over the road, that's got two 18-inch pipes there, and I've upgraded that to a 30-inch pipe down through there. So that really should handle the water, but my big concern is I know that it's gonna cost probably 125 grand to tar that. And, I mean, you're just gonna be tarring on a can of Jello. I mean, it's
So-
lasted a long time, but I mean, back in the 60s, when they tarred the roads, they didn't have the equipment and the gravel and the stuff to do with then, and, I'm all in favor of
not going crazy, but I sleep at night.
So let me ask this question so that we can try to come up with an answer for you. Roughly how much would it cost to do it correctly? And if we do that, is there something else that we can't do this year that we really should because of budgeting, or is it just we should ask for more next time?
Well, how much money do you have in your rainy day fund? I know there is one of them somewhere, whatever, so I don't know how much is in there
So,
on
so we don't
course.
have a rainy day fund, but we do have our contingency fund, and that's a a small percentage of the overall operating budget, which is about 15 grand.
It's about 15 grand.
So it's not gonna cover anything for roads.
No, because I've already, there's gotta be at least 30 grand there already for last week.
As far as all of the water, the culverts and catch basins, let's just make sure that we take that out of the bridges and culverts fund.
Okay, well, I talked to Dana about that, but I told him not to do that, and so he talked to you folks first, because I didn't want to, go over anybody's heads, but.
Well, that would be where those should come from,
Yeah.
and regardless of the rest of the road, the drainage should definitely be done correctly.
Yeah.
And we have the money in the funds to do
Correct,
that.
correct, okay. Well, I guess I can finish getting the pipes in, and then see what FEMA's gonna do for us, and go from there.
Well, it would be great if we could get reimbursed from FEMA.
Well, maybe not of it all, but I mean, and this is only a section of the road, this isn't even the worst part of the road, it's the road that the water took. So maybe we can, even if we get the tar from FEMA,
Yeah,
and then we have to buy the gravel, but it just,
but, so roughly how much is the difference between let's just do it over and let's do it right?
well, if you do it over, you still have to,
Cause you said it was about 125 grand for the tar.
Yeah,
So that's whatever we're gonna do
I
that
told
either
Rob
way.
you were looking at $250,000 for the damage that was done in town from the
So-
storm.
Okay.
We had a day.
But talking about Roby Road, you said
Yeah.
it's about 125 for the
So,
asphalt.
for the asphalt,
If we were to do underneath it correctly,
at
how
least
much,
another,
roughly how much?
at least
About the
another
same?
100.
Another 100.
Well, you gotta have 2 feet of good you should have 4 feet of good gravel, but you're not gonna have money enough to do that. So you gotta have at least 16 inches, 16, 18 inches, and then if we put the fabric down, you can get away with that. Put the road fabric down underneath that, and then put the gravel, 16 inches of gravel on top of that, it should stay. Instead of digging it out 4 feet. But I've dug up a lot of roads and got down into clay and in hard pan and stuff, but, this stuff here, you could grow a lawn with it. It's just,
Okay.
somebody just took a bulldozer back in the day and took a stone wall and,
So roughly how much money do we have in our construction and, road construction and our road?
so before you start bailing into that, Pleasant Street's all ripped apart. You're gonna leave that like
Oh,
that?
right. But like, how much do we actually have, and then is there any that might be left by the time we use it and fund it?
There's not gonna be anything left in the road construction.
We haven't funded the highways and roads capital reserve funds, that's 275,000 that will be added to 23,000, so that's, say, 300,000.
And that's what's constructing Pleasant.
That's the road, highways and roads capital reserve fund, which is what we would use for that. Then the road preservation account, which is for a different purpose, we have 194,440.
And 120 of that's leaving Friday.
And we are to fund 100,000 in that. So in other words, we'll have almost 300,000 there.
That he's
Although
using
he's just, if
120
he's
out.
100, so we're back
So-
to 200.
200.
Yeah.
So let's say that there's about 175 or so left in that, which would cover this. So,
So then that means you're not gonna do anything down on the dirt part of Pleasant Street to get ready for your, bridge, construction next year, and they're coming to crush gravel at the pit, that's gonna be 40-something grand here next month, that's.
does
was
that
all-
come out, so that comes out of that same fund? Or is
Yeah,
that
road
operating
preservation.
budget, or- Okay, so all of our, okay.
So you're cutting in, I mean, this stuff was all planned a year ago.
So this is why I was asking the question, what would we have to give up to do it right?
You have nothing to give up.
But now FEMA, are we sure we're gonna get FEMA money?
No,
Or
we're
that's a
not.
We don't know
crapshoot?
anything right now.
No.
Oh,
no.
okay, alright. So
And,
it
like,
just-
if we get FEMA funding, then great.
I
Then
mean,
it's all right.
if worse comes to worse over on the Roby Road, I mean, I'll put the pipes in, put 6 inches of gravel down and keep it dirt, and you guys can come up with the money next year, but if you have another one of these,
Yeah,
Richard, Alan Jones measured 4.5 inches of rain Sunday, and George Cummins measured 5.5 over there, and you get another one of them on that hill dirt, it's all
Yeah.
gonna be down underneath the pipe on Battle Street. So, I mean, it is what it is.
can't fight Mother Nature, I guess, that's the one thing.
And I've got pictures over there to George Cummins where that water was coming down across that 4-foot pipe was full. She
Wow.
weren't taking it, and it was, I mean, it,
Wow. Yeah, well, the Blackwater was pretty high too,
so anyways, I just wanted to let you know where I was at with that, and, that will give you something to think about for a day or two, and hopefully FEMA will come along and,
Since we use it for a lot of things, whether it's around culverts or the like, is there any way that we can do the, like crushing, for example, or the preparing of Pleasant Street, because that's for the bridge and the bridge detour, out of the Bridges and Culverts Fund?
I'd have to read the original warrant article, how it was set up, to
'Cause
make sure.
Knowing that we should have way more than we need in that fund right
I
now.
mean, and we always could, I mean, I could talk to the trustees and they would probably ask the charitable trusts about it, to see if we got permission to do that.
If we could do
I just don't
that,
wanna do it bad. I just
that
wanna
would give
do
us
it
the
right.
money to do this correct and still do the things we had planned.
Right. I think it's important to do it correctly.
yeah,
Um,
so do I.
because if
The interesting thing is, we really, I mean, this is what I would call an emergency.
Mhm.
And I hate to suggest a special town meeting to have an appropriation, but that is also an option.
I'd rather not have to try to get the town together to say, give us more money. I'd rather
I would
find a
agree.
way to, since we have the money, just not in the
Can't the
right
town put
necessarily
money
buckets.
against
Yeah, right.
another?
If we can,
No.
if we can actually
The town
use it.
can,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
the
Hold a
people.
special town
What was
meeting
that?
but
To
we
move
still
it
have
from
to.
bridge and culverts to the,
Yeah, we could do that.
that's a
if the
worst
meeting
case
happened.
scenario.
So if we can use bridges and culverts towards any of that,
All right, let's,
then,
bear with me while we go down Bridges and Culverts Road.
yeah.
Well, I mean, isn't
We
Clothespin
have-
Bridge basically gonna be paid for?
Yes.
We don't, taxpayers aren't gonna have to pay for that.
We've been paying for the engineering and now the new
Right,
process.
but not the
But-
whole thing, so that, but we've been saving money for that, so that should be used somewhere else, I would
At
think.
the end of the
Correct.
day, we're gonna have to pay 20% of the engineering costs for Clothespin Bridge.
That's,
And we'll get 80% from the state. The construction will be 100% paid for by
that's still a
the
bargain.
federal government. Oh, it's great, yeah, it's great,
a bargain and a half.
yeah.
And we've been paying a lot of that engineering already.
Yeah,
So, which reminds me, we were gonna get something from them about what the scope and pricing and stuff for going forward. Plus, we were having to look at bidding for somebody else that was gonna oversee the
Right.
construction.
Right, we're gonna need another engineer to oversee the construction.
So it's not like we aren't gonna use the funding and there's not significant amounts of money going in, but we're not gonna need the, what was it?
Total.
300, 400,000 that we expected for the construction percentage.
Right.
So,
Maybe the way to do it, I would be glad to see if I can run a few numbers rather than try and do it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and with what we can,
Well, I just
What
wanted
options
to
we
pass
might
that
have.
on,
you know.
just so, instead of waiting another couple of weeks.
No,
till the
right, yeah.
Department head meeting. to-
When do you, when do you kind of like have to know in order to do one thing or the other?
Well, what we did was.
Obviously, we wanna get you as soon as possible.
Right, school's gonna be opening back up,
Yeah.
and, we needed to get Roby Road opened up for emergency vehicles no matter what. And we're to that point, but I just didn't wanna keep moving on, and then, you know, dropping the bomb, and I just wanted to let you folks know what we needed and what was happening and stuff, but, Pleasant Street, that's already scheduled to be ground. After we got one more pipe to put in there, and then they'll come in and grind it, and then we'll build the road up.
So, let me play the devil's advocate for 1 second. Let's assume, for the worst-case planning scenario, let's assume we don't have additional money and there's no FEMA reimbursement happening. What would your recommendation be for where we send the money and what we do? Because we can say we'd like to do it correct all we
Correct,
want,
but, okay, so, is it May? Is it next May the bridge goes out to bid? Or is it next May they start work on the bridge?
I thought that the bid would be going out in the fall of this year.
Yeah, I
This
think
year,
so too.
yeah.
That's what
So,
I thought.
Yeah.
then, that's gonna be your detour,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, that can't be all ripped to crap.
The actual work probably won't start until a year after that, is what he told us, as far as the materials that are needed.
Right, but it all depends, so,
Yeah,
but the
right.
worst case scenario, if it goes out the first of the year and they start in June, or,
Probably mid-24, we'd have to
yeah,
be in the position to.
so. And then, I guess the worst scenario is just get that road in shape and leave it dirt, hope for the best.
And then appropriate is to finish the job at the next meeting.
Yeah, the next town meeting,
Okay.
but it's not,
So see if we can use the funds in the more creative ways
Okay.
to be able to do that and cover it and do it correctly.
Okay.
my biggest thought was, this all took place, and then they called the other day and said that they were coming to sand seal, that was 100 and something grand. I was gonna put that on hold, but they'd already ordered and made everything, and it was all whatever, so it was too late to kinda cancel that. I was
Yeah,
gonna,
you can't.
well, I could have, but I would've burnt some bridges.
I was gonna say, you'll come back and bite you in
Yeah.
the
So
end
that's-
sometime.
That was my goal, there would've been 100 and something grand there, to at least put over there, but I was a week too late. We'll make it work somehow.
So,
I'm sure you will.
I gotta
see
eat
what
supper.
you can
Thank you, go have a good supper.
thank you
We
very
got a
much.
driveway permit in today.
The good news is
So I didn't know
that
if you
Karen
wanted to
has
stop by
collected
and Craig tomorrow after
95%
that meeting and
of
look at
the
the other new
taxes.
ones.
Wow.
Very good.
It's on
Wow, that is
I think
great.
that he already talked to you. Him
And
and his son were cutting some
so,
trees and you stopped
that
by.
brings us to motions
Yes,
and
what was going
approvals. I'm inclined, just
I
because
don't know how long.
we're not all
it's
here
gonna
to
bother
wait
his
for
son.
the meeting
Might
minute
not have
approvals
been
until we're all here.
Fine. No
Somewhere
problem
down
there.
there.
Yeah, I'll check it out tomorrow.
He
I've
gave
got
us the drawing
things
and
to
everything.
sign.
Okay.
So it's in my
The
office.
All right,
manifest,
thank you.
the
Thank you.
payroll.
Have a good dinner.
Yeah.
um,
And based on where we are with our funds, when are we looking at funding, for example, for preservation that is obviously being used very rapidly right
I think we're in the position to do it now.
now? Okay. So will that be, is that a motion or is that on the next manifest?
You can make a motion, but we can also put it on the next manifest and have you approve it when you sign it.
Okay, that's,
One of the
Yeah,
other.
do the
that's
easy
easiest,
way.
let's do that.
Right.
That seems like the easy way.
That's the
Do
easy.
the
I
easy
think
way,
that's
I
the
like
easy
the
way.
I
easy
think that's how we
way.
did it the last few times.
I
right?
think so, yeah.
So
I
let's
think you
just
did.
stick with doing it the same way.
What's this?
That
Sign
is
this.
the
Okay.
credit card payments.
VRC Companies is.
That's the record
Record
retention
retention,
people.
okay, that's the new name that they
And we
have.
should have one more project in that as soon as I pack it up. And then it goes to Dana.
I was gonna say the gravel, what's core name?
That's the culverts.
Ah, okay, thank you.
Is Phil Mitchell, I never see him around, is he doing okay?
Yeah, he's working.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Mackenzie, the registers.
They're very busy, of course, because they just have 2 people there.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. I know, I never see him around.
But he is around.
I'm just hoping he's, you know.
Yeah, I think it's good.
You did that one too.
Oh, how did I miss that one? Okay.
That's not as bad as I thought it would be without the overtime.
First Amendment, oh, that's,
All right, so that is signing of documents. Is there anything further you'd like to bring up?
No, from me.
no, not me.
Any non-publics that we need to have?
Not from me, no.
All right, then I would move that we close this meeting at 8:23.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Hey, what do you know?
Russ is letting them out or something, I will go turn things off.
I don't know what he's doing.
He went with that.
Oh, okay, they're doing
You know, we all have to do that once in a
something,
while.
yeah, once